Now, the National Student Financial Aid Scheme, NSFAS, has warned that over 100,000 students may lose funding as the scheme runs out of money. NSFAS says it can only support about 520,000 students next year, leaving many unable to study or register. Student groups call it a major failure and a threat to equal education. South African Union of Students spokesperson Thato Masekwa joins us now for more on this conversation. Thato, thank you so much for the time. Appreciate it here. What do you think's gone wrong with NSFAS? Has it just been under, I don't know, maladministration somehow? The funding not going the right way as it should right now? What do you think the problems are?
No, thank you for having us. And I must say that as South, we are noting this view as nothing short of a national emergency that is just looming. And of course, we are not just talking figures. There's about 100,000 students whom are eligible, likely eligible, and their future that literally depends on NSFAS. These are people who are from the poor and the working class, whose only hope for access for education is NSFAS. And it's, of course, it's long-standing that in NSFAS you find mismanagement, poor planning within the scheme. And for years we've been struggling with delayed allowances, technical problem failure, students being chased away from accommodation. And as South, we reject any situation where a student is excluded because the state failed to plan properly. Education is not just a privilege. It is a constitutional right. And this crisis that we see is likely to cause a huge instability as far as the 2026 academic year is concerned.
Yeah, and you make note of that constitutional obligation to provide access to education. I mean, it clearly then points to government being the key reason and responsible then for this crisis. Do you think it was that loan-based system that came into play in 2017 that created what we're seeing right now? And then loan recovery becomes a key part of the conversation, because government will point to that and say the weak loan recovery has been a reason why they're unable to disburse more funds in future.
Yeah, well, to be honest with you, I don't think that the loan being turned into a bursary became a problem, but rather it pointed towards free education, in which is what we have been calling for, that has been called for by the generation of the Fees Must Fall, and we still continue to that call. Look, there's an appreciation that it is a bursary now, but even those that got it as a loan, some of them are still struggling to find employment, are still doubling in minor jobs. They don't even have degrees to date because they cannot apply for jobs using those degrees because NSFAS has not settled the debt within institutions, and therefore they cannot get their degrees back. What we just find here, it's failure of government to plan. And moreover, outside of government planning, is that you also recognize that like in the history of things, from the academic year 2021, 2022, 3, 4, funding of NSFAS, of course, by National Treasury has been going down. And that calls for a major concern because more students are going up, which means that there is a need, there is a hunger for the youth and the young people in the country to be educated, to change situations around where they are coming from. But subsequent to that, you timeously see a deliberate intentional punishment by government to withdraw or reduce funding, which somehow is a sabotage on its own to the future of young people in this country.
I mean, as you made note of, it's those budget constraints that government will point to. Do you think that's a legitimate defense to this cause when, of course, billions are already reportedly lost to inefficiencies that we're seeing across the board?
Yeah, look, and I must say, higher education funding cannot be a line item that gets cut when times are tough. It is an investment in the country's stability and growth. And this is simply government's failure to plan for its own future and for its own generation. And that is what I think is a problem with this government. You find a lot of argumentatively, a lot of deputy ministers, a lot of things are just happening as they are, but where they are supposed to put their priority, they prioritize something else.
Yeah. So what can be done, though? We're at a stage where action needs to be done. 100,000 pupils, if not more, are at risk here of not having funding for tertiary education. What can actually physically be done at this stage? Do we need universities to offer greater support? I don't know, private institutions to perhaps play a hand?
Look, I think in as far as that is concerned, you see, I must say that poverty on its own is dehumanizing, and we do not want students to overprove how poor they are in as far as institutions are concerned. Once you put institutions, then it means that these students must overprove their poverty beyond reasonable doubt. And NSFAS has been a measure in which it covered that unspoken poverty. What must happen in the now, because this the National Treasury must just urgently prioritize in the upcoming midterm budget higher education, and of course NSFAS in particular, to ensure that these shortfalls do not come through. And once that is the case, then we, I think, will be at a better position in as far as that is concerned. And provided that it does not happen, we as South, of course, are going to engage our stakeholders, which of course the SRC across the country, all strategic organizations that are progressive, and of course have got young people in them, so that we then plan ahead on what must happen in as far as the beginning of the academic year 2026 is concerned, so that these over 100 students, they find a better solution before it could even occur.
You've spoken about engaging not just with the SRCs of particular universities, but also there needs to be engagement with government. Has any of that come through at all? And has political leadership responded in any way to what would be a moral as well as political failure here?
So what we have done, we have, of course, had engagement with the SRCs, I think, a week ago. And we, of course, have a planned meeting with the Minister of Higher Education. And then we believe that subsequent to that meeting with Higher Education Minister, likely, of course, we'll engage NSFAS and we'll write to Treasury. And provided that we get a response, we'll also engage the political leadership across political variations that represent students in the country, and then we'll then get a chart way forward that is going to guide as to what is to be done going forth.
Yeah, do you expect to see any kind of protest action off the back of this?
No, I cannot be sangomatic around what is to be done, but what I can guarantee you is that if the future of young people in this country is threatened, anything is possible. The masses of our people will literally guide us as to what is to be done, and will adhere to the call.